September 15th, 2025, 4:18 p.m. local time.
A Getty-class Venezuelan patrol ship turns hard to port. Its new heading directly toward a U.S. Navy destroyer operating legally in international waters. On board the USS Knights, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer. The bridge crew spots the maneuver instantly. No warning, no radio contact, just a steel hull, 2,300 tons of it, accelerating to 22 knots and closing fast. At this range, less than 12 nautical miles, there's no room for assumptions. Every second counts. Combat Information Center calls the bridge. Unidentified contact is altering course. CPA is under 3 miles and shrinking. The ship's captain gives the order. Maintain ROE. Log everything. Hail once, then go active. Brigitte Bridge hails go out in English and Spanish. No response. The Venezuelan ship isn't drifting. It's choosing this path. The USS Knights activates electronic countermeasures. Long-range cameras lock onto the contact. The ship's 5-inch gun rotates silently, just enough to be seen. Subtle, but deliberate. This isn't a drill, and everyone on board knows it. Inside the Combat Information Center, sailors monitor, radar, and FLIR feeds while maintaining a precise log. One misstep could be interpreted as hostile intent or weakness. And in these waters, weakness gets exploited. For the next 8 minutes, every system on the Knights is watching. Every move is recorded. One wrong decision from either side. And this turns from posturing to escalation fast. And Venezuela's about to find out exactly how fast. 21 nautical miles. That's when the Venezuelan patrol vessel first appeared on radar. At first, it was just another contact. Low speed, steady heading, but that changed quickly. At 4:11 p.m., USS Knights Spy 1D radar marked the vessel's acceleration from 12 knots to 22 in under 2 minutes. Unusual, especially in these waters. The CIC or the Combat Information Center tagged it. Track Sierra 17-9, a Venezuelan Navy Gary class identifiable by its profile twin-mast radar array forward-mounted Otto Malaro 76mm gun and a hull signature the Knights fire control radar had already stored from past encounters. It was approaching on an aggressive intercept course vectoring directly toward the destroyer's starboard bow. The Knights was not inside any territorial waters. It was 34 nautical miles off Venezuela's coast. Well within international law. Still, procedures are procedures. The officer of the deck issued his first hail. Unidentified Venezuelan naval vessel. This is U.S. Navy warship on international transit. You are closing distance at high speed. Alter course immediately. Nothing. Second hail, this time in Spanish. Silence. This wasn't a miscommunication. This was a choice. The Knights elevated its posture. Non-lethal systems activated. Long-range optics zoomed in. The SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite began logging emissions. Every radar ping, every signal, every whisper of movement was recorded. The rules of engagement or the ROE were crystal clear. Warn, show presence, prepare to respond. And that's exactly what the crew of the Knights was doing. Meanwhile, flight deck crews were already strapping down sensor pods and loading flares onto the ship's Seahawk helicopter. Because when ships get too close, the next step isn't a warning, it's a flyover. For 22 p.m. The Venezuelan patrol ship increases speed again, this time to 26 knots. That's over its typical cruise rate. Now it's pushing its diesel turbines hard. And the exhaust haze confirms it. The bridge of the USS Knights goes quiet. Everyone's listening, watching. CIC confirms. Contact is maneuvering with intent. CPA now under 2.1 nautical miles. Time to CPA 6 minutes. This isn't a shadowing maneuver. It's a close pass. And close passes in international waters mean one thing, pressure. Inside the CIC, tracking officers log every bearing change. Surface watch calls out visual confirmations. Deck crew is visible on the Venezuelan vessel. Helmets on. Personnel moving near the gun mount. Weapons not manned yet. But the crew isn't waiting. Flight ops are greenlit. The Seahawk is a tactical toolbox. Surveillance, sonar, even torpedoes if needed. But right now, it's about presence. A fast, flexible airborne asset that can get eyes on the target and apply non-lethal pressure. The Seahawk's onboard sensor operator calibrates forward-looking infrared to track surface movement. Useful in daylight, too, especially against hot exhaust and running gear. The destroyer's SLQ-32 picks up a narrow radar sweep coming in from the Venezuelan vessel. They are scanning us back. The night's electronic warfare officer calls it out. Low-power service search mode. They are painting us without fire control. That's the line. Not a direct threat, but it means that they are actively tracking the Knights' position, speed, and heading, not passive observation. This is targeting behavior. At 4:26 p.m., the Seahawk banks hard left, dropping to 200 feet above the water line. Its crew, 2 pilots and 1 sensor operator are locked in. Communications with the Knights remains open but minimal. The mission is clear. Close the gap. Identify posture and deliver a nonverbal message. We see you. We're ready. And we're not alone. 8 miles out, the Venezuelan patrol ship looms larger through the Seahawk's nose camera. The Gary-class vessel is old-school steel with modern intentions, but the Seahawk crew has the edge, literally and digitally. Under its belly, the helicopter's MX-20 FLIR system goes live, delivering high-res thermal imagery in real time. At 1.5 nautical miles, the Seahawk levels out. Safe distance, no flyover. This is tactical presence, not provocation. Then comes the light. The helicopter pulses a green laser designator. Non-lethal but impossible to miss. It lands on the Venezuelan ship's bridge windows. And then the broadcast. Venezuelan naval vessel. This is a U.S. Navy helicopter. You are operating unsafely in international waters. Change course now or you will be recorded as a hostile contact. Same message repeated in Spanish. The Venezuelan bridge crew stirs. Figures move. One appears to raise binoculars. Another waves. Unclear if it's a signal or defiance. Back aboard the Seahawk. The sensor operator zooms in. Infrared captures facial heat signatures. The footage is time-stamped, geoload, and stored. It's not just intel. It's legal proof. Inside the Venezuelan CIC, their radar systems are now painting the Seahawk. Still no fire control radar tone, but that line is getting thinner by the second. The Seahawk circles once wide and slow, enough for every sailor topside to see its markings. Navy, a white star, and an open weapons bay that could be carrying sonar buoys or torpedoes. They don't know. That's the point. The message is clear. Back off. The patrol ship maintains course, but its wake is shortening. Speed is dropping. 24 knots, then 22. They are backing down carefully, but visibly. And in the air above them, the Seahawk watches, silent, armed with nothing but optics and intent. 4:32 p.m. The Venezuelan patrol ship drops to 19 knots. A subtle turn follows, just a few degrees off the Knights' path. Not a retreat, but no longer a direct intercept either. From the Seahawk's optics, the change is unmistakable. The ship's posture has drifted. Deck crew are pulling back from the forward gun mount. One sailor waves again, this time with both arms palms out. Universal maritime language. No harm intended. The Seahawk doesn't flinch. It holds its orbit. Sensors locked in. Side-mounted camera recording every second. Then the Venezuelan bridge crackles to life. United States naval vessel. We are exercising sovereign patrol duties in proximity to Venezuelan waters. We request that you adjust your heading accordingly. It's not an apology, but it is the first sign of communication. Back on the Knights, the response is clear, firm, and immediate. Venezuelan vessel, this is U.S. warship conducting legal transit in international waters. Your movements are being recorded. Unsafe maneuvers will be treated as escalating. Silence, then nothing. No new turns, no new hails, just the rhythm of engines and the widening gap between holes. The Seahawk completes one final loop, then peels off. It climbs to 500 feet and heads back towards the night's flight deck. Mission complete. Pressure applied. Message delivered. By 4:38 p.m., the Venezuelan ship is 6 nautical miles off the NIS starboard quarter. Still visible, still moving, but no longer a threat. There are no missiles, no warning shots, just a tense ballet of steel, optics, and precision flying. But in this standoff, nobody blinked until Venezuela did. This wasn't random. Venezuela doesn't sail a warship straight to a U.S. Navy destroyer without a reason, even if that reason is just posturing. To understand why, you have to look back at what happened just 2 weeks earlier on September 2, 2025. In a rare public statement, U.S. Southern Command confirmed that 2 Venezuelan smuggling vessels were kinetically neutralized in international waters after ignoring multiple warnings. The target, high-volume drug runners suspected of carrying synthetic opioids bound for the U.S. Strikes were clean, precise, and conducted by drones operating under Coast Guard jurisdiction backed by Navy ISR. The message from Washington was loud and clear. Smuggling operations in the Caribbean won't be tolerated, even outside territorial waters. Caracas, not a fan. In the days following the strikes, intelligence analysts noticed a sudden uptick in Venezuelan naval activity, especially from their commando Duarte Costas, the Naval Coast Guard. But it wasn't just coastal. Ships began patrolling deeper, venturing close to U.S. routes, often with erratic patterns. Then came the flyovers. On September 10, U.S. Navy ships reported 2 separate overflights by Venezuelan kilowatt light attack jets flying low, slow, and well inside international airspace. No weapons loaded, but unmistakably deliberate. Those jets didn't fire anything, but their radar and electro-optical pots, they were active. Venezuela wasn't launching a war. They were collecting data and sending a signal. We see you and we can push back too. The night's encounter fits that same pattern. It wasn't an attempt to engage. It was a political message wrapped in Navy steel. Venezuela's military doctrine, especially at sea, revolves around a symmetric presence. They know they can't match U.S. firepower, but they don't need to. Their goal is to create tactical friction, slow things down. Create headlines, force Washington to think twice before striking again. And the U.S. response, professional, predictable, controlled, presence, not provocation, surveillance, not suppression. That's the American playbook in these waters. Keep the advantage. Log everything. Let the facts tell the story. Because in a world where every radar ping, every course change, every green laser pulse can go viral or reach the UN Security Council, the real weapon isn't always the missile. Sometimes it's the memory card in the Seahawk's sensor pod. By 4:45 p.m., the Seahawk is secured on deck. The Venezuelan patrol ship is now 9 miles off the night's quarter. Still visible on radar, but no longer maneuvering. The Knights maintains course, steady speed, no sirens, no combat posture, just professional distance. But every move from the radar locks to the green laser pulses to the ignored hails has been logged, timestamped, and filed. This wasn't combat. It was calculated pressure. A chess move played at sea with steel instead of pawns. For Venezuela, the message was sent. We're not backing down. But the reply was louder. We're not blinking. One tense encounter. No shots fired, but a clear boundary drawn. Quietly and undeniably, the Caribbean remains a flashpoint, not because of firepower, but because of proximity, politics, and perception. The next encounter might not end this calmly. So, here's the question. Should the US respond more aggressively to these maritime standoffs, or is restraint the smarter weapon? Drop your take in the comments. I'm going to read everyone. And if you want more real-world encounters like this, where navies posture, intercept, and calculate their moves down to the meter, subscribe to Navy Media. And hey, If you want to go a step further and support the channel directly, join the fleet. According to Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro, this action aims to defend its sovereignty against foreign warships. In response, within just 36 hours, the United States dispatched 3 Aegis-guided missile destroyers and a nuclear-powered submarine carrying approximately 4,000 sailors and marines. The U.S. declared the deployment aimed at countering drug trafficking operations by regional criminal organizations. On deck, the muzzles of U.S. Navy 45 Malawi and Quachas naval guns pointed forward. The Aegis combat system stood ready. On one side stood the world's undisputed naval superpower. On the other, a smaller nation determined not to yield. What will be the cost of Venezuela's daring defiance? Like, share, and subscribe to Military Power for the latest developments. The United States has moved its attention back to the Southern Caribbean, where Washington says the flow of narcotics threatens communities across the nation. In recent weeks, the White House has framed drug cartels not only as criminal groups, but also as organizations that fall under the same category, as terrorist networks. President Donald Trump made clear that the problem of fentanyl and cocaine reaching American cities is no longer just a policing issue. Earlier this year, his administration designated several gangs, including Venezuela's Tren ARA, as foreign terrorist organizations. Along with the designations, the Justice Department doubled the bounty for the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, raising it to $50 million. U.S. officials argue that Maduro has long tolerated criminal activity and allowed his country to become a platform for trafficking networks that reach the Caribbean and then North America. The policy change was followed by the movement of major military assets. Defense officials confirmed that guided missile destroyers, a nuclear-powered attack submarine, and additional surveillance aircraft would operate near Venezuelan waters. At the same time, the IOIMA Amphibious Ready Group and the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit were placed under U.S. Southern Command. Altogether, more than 4,000 sailors and Marines have been committed to the mission. The ships and aircraft can gather intelligence, monitor routes, and provide a quick response if suspicious vessels attempt to transport drugs toward the United States. They also stand as a visible message to both criminal groups and hostile governments that the United States is willing to act when its national security is at stake. Officials emphasized that such measures are necessary given that synthetic opioids alone have taken the lives of over 100,000 Americans annually in recent years. By placing advanced naval and air assets in the Caribbean, the United States hopes to cut smuggling routes, reassure allies, and keep pressure on Maduro's government to address the growing concern of regional instability. The American Navy has now placed one of its strongest strike groups in the Southern Caribbean, marking the largest buildup in the region in decades. At the center of this force are 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, each carrying more than 90 vertical launch cells that can fire a wide range of missiles from Tomahawk cruise missiles to advanced anti-air interceptors. These ships are often described as floating fortresses because they combine radar systems, electronic warfare tools, and firepower equal to that of a small air force. Their presence near Venezuelan waters is designed to deter both drug smugglers and any state actor considering interference. Supporting the destroyers is a nuclear-powered attack submarine whose location is rarely disclosed but whose capability is well understood. Armed with torpedoes and cruise missiles, this platform can strike from below the surface and remain hidden for months. For U.S. commanders, such a vessel is not only a weapon of stealth, but also a shield, making it dangerous for any hostile ship to approach the American task force. The addition of this submarine sends a message that the United States is prepared to handle threats both above and beneath the sea. Alongside these warships, the IOIMA Amphibious Ready Group has been placed under Southern Command. It carries the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit numbering more than 2,200 Marines. These forces are trained for a wide spectrum of missions ranging from humanitarian assistance to full-scale combat operations. Their equipment includes amphibious assault vehicles, helicopters, and short takeoff jets, which together create a rapid response option if a crisis occurs on land or at sea. When combined with the destroyers, the amphibious group gives Washington the ability to act quickly and flexibly. Whether the challenge is a natural disaster or a political crisis disaster or a cartel convoy at sea, the overall deployment totals more than 4,500 sailors and Marines spread across 7 to 8 major vessels. Patrol aircraft such as the P-8 Poseidon also provide support, scanning the waters with radar and sensors that can track even small boats moving at high speed. This level of coordination requires advanced communications, and the ships use secure networks to link their radars and weapons, ensuring that each unit can see the same picture in real time. The Pentagon has highlighted that all operations are taking place in international waters and airspace, following the rules of navigation and international law. At the same time, U.S. officials describe the deployment as preventive rather than aggressive, stressing that the mission is focused on countering narcotics flows and reassuring regional allies. By placing such advanced capabilities near Venezuela, Washington is demonstrating that it has the resources to strike if necessary. Yet, it is also reminding friends and adversaries alike that the United States remains the primary guarantor of security in the Caribbean. Can Venezuela's military muster a response strong enough to challenge this American naval dominance? The first action of the new campaign came on September 2 when American forces carried out an airstrike against a fast boat leaving the Venezuelan coast. According to U.S. officials, the vessel was operated by members of the Trend ARA, a criminal group accused of smuggling cocaine through the Caribbean. The strike destroyed the boat and killed 11 people on board. Washington explained that this was not an attack on Venezuela as a nation, but a targeted action against organized crime networks that threaten American security. What made this operation stand out was the method chosen. In the past, the United States Coast Guard often intercepted suspicious boats and conducted searches. The Pentagon explained this step by saying the craft was moving at high speed, heavily armed, and posed a danger to patrol units in the area. By using a strike instead of boarding, commanders removed the risk to American personnel while sending a signal that dangerous smuggling missions would no longer be tolerated. The images released by the Department of Defense showed the explosion of the vessel at sea, leaving little chance of escape for those on board. Officials stressed that intelligence had confirmed the connection of the target to cartel operations, and the decision was reviewed through the chain of command before authorization. For the administration, the destruction of the craft proved the credibility of the campaign and showed that the U.S. military could act swiftly when required. The strike also reflected the wider policy of treating cartel-linked forces as terrorist actors, meaning they could be met with military power rather than only law enforcement. In Caracas, the government of President Nicolas Maduro denied any link between the destroyed boat and organized crime. State media portrayed the incident as an unlawful act and organized memorials for the victims, presenting them as innocent civilians. This narrative quickly spread in some regional outlets, raising debate about the legality of the action. Analysts noted that the Pentagon was careful to underline the legal framework in every statement, knowing that questions of sovereignty and law carry heavy weight in Latin America. Still, American leaders argued that the alternative, allowing heavily armed traffickers to continue unchecked, was worse for both the region and the United States. By opening the campaign with a decisive blow, the administration aimed to demonstrate resolve, discourage future smuggling attempts, and reinforce the message that criminal groups operating from Venezuelan territory would now face direct military consequences. How will Venezuela retaliate against this bold American strike? And what new risks will emerge? 2 days after the strike at sea, tensions rose even higher when Venezuelan fighter jets flew dangerously close to an American warship. On September 4, radar operators aboard the USS Jason Dunham detected 2 F-16s approaching at low altitude as the ship sailed in international waters north of Caracas. The destroyer maintained its course and broadcast warnings on open channels, but the aircraft closed the distance until they were clearly visible to the crew. U.S. officials later described the maneuver as provocative and stressed that the ship had not crossed into Venezuelan territory. The F-16 is Venezuela's most advanced combat aircraft capable of carrying guided missiles and bombs, and its appearance so close to an American destroyer immediately drew attention. Analysts pointed out that the Jason Dunham is equipped with the Aegis combat system, which can track hundreds of aerial targets at once and guide interceptors to defend the vessel. Yet, the danger of miscalculation was real. A single missile launch or sudden move could have forced the American crew to respond within seconds. This standoff demonstrated how quickly a political dispute could escalate into a direct confrontation between two militaries. The Pentagon explained that the destroyer had acted in line with international maritime law and emphasized that freedom of navigation in open waters is a principle that cannot be challenged. According to defense officials, the ship's weapons were not activated, but the crew moved to high alert and prepared defensive systems in case of escalation. The incident lasted only a few minutes before the Venezuelan jets pulled away, but it highlighted the fragile balance in the Caribbean, where warships and fighters operate in proximity. In Washington, the administration made clear that the United States would continue its counter-narcotics mission regardless of intimidation. Military commanders underlined that American vessels would not be pushed out of international waters and that future attempts to shadow or harass them would be met with firm responses. Caracas, on the other hand, portrayed the flight as a demonstration of sovereignty, arguing that foreign warships so near to Venezuelan shores demanded a show of strength. Local media celebrated the F-16 pilots as defenders of national pride, while opposition groups worried that such moves risked drawing the country into a conflict it could not sustain. International observers noted that Venezuela's air force has struggled in recent years with limited spare parts and declining readiness, choosing to send fighters against a modern U.S. destroyer particularly risky. For many analysts, this was the moment when the confrontation shifted from a campaign against cartels to a direct test of wills between governments. The close pass of two fighters did not change the balance of power, but it raised the political temperature and reminded both sides how easily accidents could spiral into open confrontation. By holding its position without overreacting, the United States demonstrated discipline and restraint, showing that its mission was guided not by provocation, but by a commitment to law and security.